Somewhere I remember somebody teaching us that if you love people, you got to tell them the truth. And I hope that this conversation can be one that we care enough about each other, we care enough about our babies and each other's babies to tell each other the truth. This issue of linking together our struggles is one that comes out of our shared history, and it also comes out of an awareness that we have when we were taught that a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Part of living in this globalized world means that it is now that much easier for us to not only be aware of each other's suffering, each other's resistance, and each other's liberation, but also to do something about it. We're also linked together by shared history. We know that of the 12 million human beings who were stolen and enslaved from Africa and brought over to the New World, 90% of them go to Central America and Latin America. We know that 20% of those African brothers and sisters came from a Muslim background. We were already linked together in the belly of the slave ship, whether we were sent to Brazil, Central America, or the as of yet unnamed United States. There's a lot that we could say about this circus season that we find ourselves in, which feels like somehow the YouTube section, comment section, has come to life and is running for president, where we've got people who are telling us that they're either going to make America great again, and I don't mean to say that these two are equally bad, because they're not, or you have the response come out from Secretary Clinton that says, no, we're not going to make America great again, America's always been great. Somewhere along the way, we got to stand up and love each other enough to tell each other the truth. And to say, a nation whose original sin is the genocide of Native people was not great. A nation that is built on the back of centuries of transatlantic slavery was not great. And a country whose founding documents and laws declare what it means to be a citizen on March 26, 1790, as citizenship being the rights of free white men, was not great. And when it takes you 100 years to include our African brothers, not sisters yet, and then you impose Jim Crow on them, that is not a great nation. When it takes you until 1924 to embrace our Native American brothers, but you still keep them on the reservation, that is not great. And I want to be clear about this. If we are pointing this out, it is not because we hate our home. We love this country enough to ache for it, to hurt for it. We want to be better than what we have been. But sticking our head in the sand and pretending that we want to be great again or we've always been great, that doesn't get us there. If greatness is written for America, and that's an open question, it will come out of the ways in which we actually link our struggles together and we insist that there is a more perfect union, but that perfect union has not been achieved yet. I could talk a lot about that orange Oompa Loompa that's running for president, but I'd rather not. I'd rather go to this moment this summer in the funeral of the most important Muslim of the 20th century, one of the top 5 or 6 most important African Americans of the 20th century, Muhammad Ali. Back when boxing mattered, he was the most famous person on the planet. He was Michael Jordan before there was a Michael Jordan. And the United States of America took away the heavyweight championship belt of the world for 3.5 years from him because he did what we're all trying to do here, to connect together over here to over there. He said, why should I go and kill people in Vietnam when my black folk in Louisville don't have equal rights? To be involved in linking our struggles together is not a popularity contest, but sometimes we have to pay a price. There is no struggle that accomplishes anything without sacrifice. That's true for Muhammad, and it's true for us. Beware of natives. Right? This is what white supremacy looks like. If you are watching the experiences of the native people, of stolen African humans, of Muslims, of Palestinians, we could have also included of our gay and lesbian and trans brothers and sisters, of Jews, of Mormons, of Irish and others, if there's a common denominator, it's this: empire. Empire is based fundamentally on this notion of a differential of human life. There are things that you do to black and brown and yellow and red people that you would never do to free white men. And if we want to believe that we are a nation that actually believes that all men, maybe and all women, maybe. It took us a while to get there. And some folks are still having a hard time with us getting there. Then we got to know that this is what colonialism and empire looks like. We're not the first ones to try to link our struggles together. Mandela knew that the struggles of South Africans against apartheid would never be free without the struggles of Palestinians. We know when we watch the pictures of the Nakba, the catastrophe, the ethnic cleansing, that's what we call it now. In the 19th and 20th century, we called it population transfer. Population transfer, what an innocent sounding term. And every empire did population transfer. The Russians did population transfer. The American Empire did population transfer. And of course, we've been doing population transfer since before there was an America. These are sins that you cannot repent for. But you can be honest about and you can do something about them. We're going to talk a little bit about this liberation struggle, and I want us just to remember that this is how we want to remember our liberators, right? Iconic, handsome, young, above the crowd. Let's remember there was 250,000 people, white and black and brown, men and women, Jew, Christian, and Muslim, who were all there. Let's remember that it was a gay communist Quaker and a labor union organizer who actually pulled this march together. That passionate Hispanic sister who started us by talking about living wages, that's what the march was for, the march for jobs and freedom. They were marching for $15 an hour then. We're still struggling to get that now. And just because we're going to critique and criticize occupation, and we always should, By he and she in whose hand is my soul, I swear that if it was the Palestinians who were occupying Jews and forcing them to live under subjugation and humiliation, I would be standing with my Jewish brothers and sisters and rebelling and standing up and speaking out against the same occupation. We have no side other than the side of love and justice. Whoever is made to suffer unjustly, that's who we stand with. Our loyalties are not based on race or creed or nationality or religion. It's a matter of right and wrong. And let us remember that the same Jewish tradition gives us a Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, that magnificent prophetic voice who prays with his feet, who stands up against the war in Vietnam and pays a price. We have the papers of Rabbi Heschel at Duke, and if you want to see the price that Heschel paid, come and see how his own community dismissed him. It is Heschel who marches with King. It is Heschel who introduces Martin in Riverside Church, when Martin stands up and says, I've come to this magnificent house of worship because my conscience no longer permits me to remain silent. The time comes when silence is betrayal, and for us, with respect to Vietnam, that time is now. And the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., Nobel Peace Prize winning Martin Luther King, is so thoroughly dismissed by the New York Times, by the FBI, who calls him the most dangerous man in America, by the NAACP, by Jackie Robinson, that Jackie Robinson. He dies, he's killed in front of room 306 Lorraine Motel, a deeply unpopular man. If they do that to Martin, let us not kid ourselves about the seriousness of moral courage and willingness to sacrifice that we are asking of ourselves. Where is this voice today? Where are our preachers, our rabbis, our imams, and our ministers who are going to love us enough to tell us that if you spend more in the military than you do on lifting your people up, you're approaching death? Where are preachers who are going to speak to us about the empire that we are? Where we build empires and colonial bases and military bases on no man's lands so that no code of law can apply to them. If we want to be a great nation, we would not be droning people. We have droned more civilians than were killed on 9/11. There are 7 countries that we're currently droning to death. When the victims of these drones show up to Washington, not a single congressman shows up to listen to them. You've heard about Palestine, the colonialization of Palestine. This is a map from 10 years ago, right? You're looking at what was supposed to be the two-state solution. The two-state solution is dead. There are 2 choices in front of us: permanent occupation or a one-state secular democratic state where everybody gets the same rights. That's it. Those are the 2 things we are left with. And this is what the American taxpayer war on Gaza looks like. We're bombing hospitals, mosques, and civilian neighborhoods. Right? This used to be a mosque. These are the smart bombs and the double tap technology that my tax dollars and yours are paying for. And there's that voice of Jesus that still comes out. What are you doing to the least of God's children? Let me end it by talking about how over there is also over here. This is the connection that Malcolm was making, that Martin makes in Riverside, that Muhammad Ali was making. The military equipment in Ferguson is recycled from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is why our police look like they're out at war with our own people. And the tear gas that is used, as we heard, is the same in Gaza, in Egypt, and in Ferguson. And the tweets that the people of Palestine are reaching out to the people of Ferguson, this is what solidarity in action looks like. We've got 892 neo-Aryan, KKK, neo-Nazi groups in the country. White supremacy is alive and well. But there is hope, and that hope is what y'all and all of us are trying to do. Solidarity. Palestinian Muslim women showing up in Ferguson, marching alongside our African-American brothers and sisters. When we hear someone like a Desmond Tutu link his experience in South Africa to the struggle of gays and lesbians, to the experience of Palestinians. And let me end by just this one simple word. I am not one who's very fond of citing and quoting from founding documents and constitutions and declarations of independence, but by God, somebody has to. Somebody has to actually read these things before they start running for office. If it says, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. If what we want is this more perfect union, we got to start by establishing justice. And as our teachers and elders have been teaching us for a long time, all that we mean by justice is love. Love when it moves into the public spaces. What I would want for my babies, I know other people want for theirs. Justice simply means I wouldn't do to other people's babies what I wouldn't want to have done to my own. Let's link together this love. Let's link together this justice. Each of us has a finite number of breaths, finite number of energy. Do our work, but linked together for this shared liberation of all humanity. Thank you.
So I want to thank Dr. Safi, and your presentation was outstanding. Outstanding.